how has technology, be it like process mapping platforms, process mining platforms, transformed how a continuous improvement team would approach a department compared to maybe how a continuous improvement team would have approached a department in, let's say, 10 years ago?
I think just the visualization is so important because people kind of have almost a vision of what they think the process is.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden we start mapping it out. That's exactly what we're going to do next week is we're going to be mapping processes out. And what I've seen is people know like this slice of their process, but when it comes to the end to end, they're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's like, it's a wall. It's a snake.
Yeah.
It's a rabbit.
Exactly.
But it's actually an elephant.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It depends on, am I touching the ear, the trunk, the leg?
Yeah.
And so it's just, I mean, it's almost like light bulbs going on. So.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Bots and Thoughts, the hyperautomation podcast sponsored by Salient Process. I'm your host, Jimmy Hewitt, aka Mr. Automation. Hello, bots and thoughters. The team and I at Salient Process are thrilled to bring you a new special guest from the 2023 OpEx conference, Joe LaCount, who is Cargill's Corporate Director of Continuous Improvement and has done an incredible job bringing process improvement and operational excellence to what will soon be all of their 160,000 employees worldwide. During this episode, Joe and I get into his story and his circuitous journey to leading OpEx at one of the biggest companies in the world, some fun OpEx stories from past experiences, and his secret sauce for going about leading OpEx at the enterprise level. It's unique, it works, and it makes me want to run through a brick wall. I am thrilled to bring you Joe LaCount from Cargill.
We're going to have to do another episode on like health and wellness because I feel like I have a lot to learn from you.
Yeah, well,
you look like you're
first,
42 and just active as all get out.
I mean, seriously, I just turned 63 a couple of weeks ago.
Joe, is it the Cargill meat? What do they put in it?
I don't know. To me, the way I take a look at it, though, is your first wealth is your health.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you can do you can do a lot of things. You can build a lot of things. But if you can't enjoy it and you can't share it with people. And for me, the way I take a look at continuous improvement too is it's not a job. It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
So if I don't have the energy to convey, the enthusiasm that I have for it, then that's a key element that I'm just missing out on.
It's a gene.
It is.
These continuous improvement folks, I've had a number of folks on the show, and I would say that there is a type. It's a growth-oriented type. It's a improvement type.
Yeah.
That if you don't have that gene, how are you possibly going to inspire others to
absolutely
pick up change?
Yeah. Because I mean, you meet other people, and it's just almost like that immediate connection, where it's like, cool, you do that. That's awesome. So you just keep on, you just keep on learning from people. So, because I mean, people ask me, well, when are you going to retire? It's like, you know what? Anything to do with tired in it, I don't want to have anything to do with
it. Well, hey, speaking of your gene, your continuous improvement gene, you now lead continuous improvement in Cargill. I'm curious if you could take us back. Have you always had that gene, or when were you bitten by the continuous improvement bug? How did you get into this space in the first place?
Yeah, well, I went to college for electrical and computer engineering and thought that, I'm just going to do, electrical and computer engineering. And then all of a sudden, straight out of college, I got hired in at Honeywell as a quality engineer in the Mark 46, Mark 50 torpedo. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know what a quality engineer was, but I soon found out what it was. And to me, I just absolutely fell in love with that whole quality, continuous improvement, working with people. Because at that point in time, back then, it was kind of like production had their lines, and then, inspection and quality had theirs, and the two never met. And it's like,
there's an opportunity there.
Oh, huge, and that to me was just an exciting way to take a look and start bridging the gap between production and quality and saying, why is this such a secret? Inspection had their inspection procedures and they didn't want to share, what they were taking a look at. And it's like, we're in the same, we're in the same company. How can we not share? So to me, it was an immediate opportunity to just start breaking down some barriers. And then, from there, my passion just continued to grow. The more I got involved.
So keep it going. You were a quality engineer at Honeywell.
Yeah.
How'd you get to being the leader of continuous improvement at Cargill?
So I've had a number of different jobs over my 40 years of doing this. So I was a quality engineer and then lead quality engineer at Honeywell. At that time, I really got into what they're calling JIT.
JIT.
Yeah, just-in-time manufacturing.
JIT.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, it wasn't, so I had an opportunity to learn from lead senseis, for about 13 months. And just, that was another whole aspect. And the thing that really impressed me about having that opportunity is just the respect that you showed to the operators. It wasn't about the hierarchy and stuff like that. Everything that you did as an engineer was really, how do you serve that operator? How do you make their life easier? Because they'd point out, like, why is that operator bending and stooping? Why does that operator have to walk all the way over there for raw material and things like that? And that just absolutely, that bugged me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's service to others, which is a fuel source for eternity. That's making a difference.
Yep.
Not only for a company's bottom line, but for a guy or girl that's going to work.
Yeah.
You're helping people.
Absolutely.
So that's really what kind of galvanized the bug for you.
Yeah. It was really, before the phrase was ever termed servant leader, maybe I was servant engineer. Servant engineer, something like that. Because to me, it was how could I make your life easier? What is it? And I just kind of coined the phrase. I said, if I could wave a magic wand and eliminate one problem from your normal workday, what would it be? Very non-threatening, just
helpful.
Just conversational, because a lot of times I think operators were really scared of engineers and management and things like that. And so I really wanted to make sure that I broke down those barriers, because the funny thing is when I was at Honeywell, I'm like winning all of these awards and stuff like that for cost reductions and stuff like that. And it's like, I'm not the one that should be getting these awards. I'm not the people, because they would give me the ideas. And I flat out said, don't give me the award. And so I just said, give the award to the people that are giving me the ideas, because I said, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm having the opportunity to learn from them. So for me, it was really fun. So then after Honeywell, I went to Textron out in California, and that was aerospace and automotive fasteners, rivets. I worked on the A320 air wing, the rivets for the A320 Airbus. And worked on all of the automotive fasteners. Really started to take a look at, the plant there out in Santa Ana was just absolutely huge. So, and everything was in these really large siloed departments. And so my job was to start to take a look and start carving up some of these and put actual work cells where people were, not just moving bins of, massive amounts of material, but more, like I said, just-in-time manufacturing, cellular manufacturing, and really building teams and saying, hey, this team has to get this output in this day. So we went, we started developing like hour-by-hour charts. But to me, just a whole camaraderie. It wasn't where we were pushing parts from one department to another. It was really, hey, if I didn't talk to you, our whole production line was going to suffer. So it was really building a team. And that to me was the first, we had quality circles and things like that, at Honeywell at Honeywell. but this brought it to just a whole other level. And so had a lot of fun there. And then from there, really started to take a look at quality and ISO and things like that. And that really kind of sparked me, because then, the whole quality continuous improvement, it's like, wow, that's not going to work in this industry, or that doesn't work in this industry. So I really kind of chose areas. So my next opportunity was with a small aluminum extruder. Is a job shop in northern Minnesota called Alexandria Extrusion, now called Alexandria Industries. And they said, well, you can't do, different, quality. You can't do what you were doing. And it's like, yeah, you can. And so, we revamped lines. We relaid out the whole entire, in fact, we came up with a whole entire plan where we built a structure over the whole entire plant so that we could gut the interior to actually move things around. So it was kind of almost like playing paper dolls and getting, kind of the best layout for what they had. And
that sounds so fun.
Yeah. And then from there, I went to Target and worked a lot on optimizing their warehouses, worked on, merchandising, music, movies, books, all the areas. I tried to touch all those areas that they said, lean isn't going to work, JIT isn't going to work. Help work on some of the first super targets, things like that, which is really very interesting.
Sure.
And then
I'm curious, why didn't they think, if we could pause this great story for a second,
Sure.
why didn't Target think that continuous improvement, lean, could apply in this area?
Just because it was seen more as a manufacturing versus transactional. So even taking a look at, working with suppliers and orders and things like that from a sales standpoint, it was seen much more as, oh, yeah, that's manufacturing.
Sure.
We can't do it sales.
Yeah.
And
So
so
looking for raw material waste, we don't have that.
Exactly.
In the office.
Yeah. And when I started,
process.
absolutely, when I started mapping out some of their processes, and they started seeing, especially like when we started doing like swim lane maps and things like that, and you started to see all the different crossovers and approvals and rework and things like that.
Oh, man.
It just opened up people's eyes to a totally different world, and that to me was really exciting. I always said I didn't really have to be smart. I just really had to have a really good memory of what worked in one industry and bring it to another industry that never seen it before. And they're like, "Oh my God, this is great! You invented this." I said, "I wish I could take credit for inventing it. I'm not, I didn't invent it. I'm just kind of redeploying it."
That's
in an area
of intelligence.
Yeah.
It's cross-pollinating ideas from one sector.
Yeah. Adopt and adapt. You take a look and even if things don't exactly fit, there's elements and there's, there's specifically core elements that you can always take a look and adopt and adapt. And that's what really makes it fun, because when you start to see a smile on someone's face, like, I'm starting to get this.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes,
this is the best.
It is the best feeling.
Process improvement, automation guy myself. There's nothing better professionally than seeing that smile.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a really good feeling and contagious for them.
Oh,
it
absolutely.
breeds more.
Yeah.
The same.
Yeah.
If you get that ember.
Yeah.
So keep going.
Well,
Target.
So from Target, I went to GE, and that's where I got my master black belt, and that to me was really a big shift, I would say, in my career, because up until that point in time, I've worked with quality systems like MilQ 9858A, ISO, things like that. Knew a lot of tools, process mapping, B&E matrix, Ishikawa, things like that. Now all of a sudden, going through, the master black belt program at GE and getting my master black belt, then it was like, oh my God, there's an actual process. There's DMAIC or DMADV or DFSS to hang these tools. It's not just tools. It's like, it's tools, but now you're hanging them in a process, and it just, I don't know why I didn't see it before, but I did. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I've just hit nirvana, because now I have a process that I can deploy tools and get a result. And I thought, then I was really hooked. Then I had to just, do whatever I could to learn as much as I could. So, I took the opportunity to mentor as many, yellow belts, green belts, black belts, because I thought, some people would call this lazy. I just call it lean, where I could learn from mentoring, tens, if not hundreds of projects, but I wasn't responsible for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I could either do maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 projects a year, or I could potentially mentor like tens, if not hundreds of projects. And just the breadth of learning that was almost like a true step function.
Yeah.
That was, and just the learning of, even if you have the best solution, if you can't get that best solution deployed through people, and that's where I really started to change from being very, I would say, tool and process centric to much more people centric. So it almost came full circle back to my roots of, no matter what, continuous improvement is really about change. And even though I'm excited about, hey, I'm improving your life, you're still the one that has to change. And if I can't get that point across, if the excitement of that improvement doesn't override the fear of change, then it's not a good solution. They're not going to buy into it. Because the minute I walk away, it's going to be like, oh yeah, that was really cool, but I'm still comfortable the way I've been doing it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So there's a lot of almost like muscle memory that you have to take. And that's why, to me, the whole, sea of control is that change leadership around that change and why it's so important. And to me, that's where I would say for the bulk of my career now, that's where I really focus in on, is a lot about the psychology of change. Why do people change? Why don't they want to change? That type of thing. But to go back to the career, then from there I went into.
I was in Minneapolis.
Yep, I was in Minneapolis. Then I moved to Indiana and was working for R. Donnelly. They're a global printer, magazines, books. I was in the book division, and again, deploying continuous improvement, bells, the quality system, ISO. They had gone through, I think, like 4 different attempts to get ISO certified. And again, the framework I absolutely love, because it's kind of very grounding. It gives you kind of that structure to hang your continuous improvement on, your quality systems on. So then from there, went to St. Jude Medical, and so was in the med device. And again, people really reluctant about Lean Six Sigma, especially lean, removing waste. It's like, oh, geez, are you gonna take shortcuts? Are you looking at taking shortcuts? This is med device. This is, these are catheters that are going into someone's heart. So this isn't, something that, and really that was another evolution. I would say almost an uptick in really kind of bringing that whole mindset that no, this is, we're actually making the product better, and we're involving again the actual operators. In fact, there was one time where I actually brought a doctor in because a lot of the folks really didn't know exactly what they were working on.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know
in a vacuum.
Yeah, I mean, they're soldering leads that I don't have what you do, but I mean soldering leads that are thinner than your hair onto rings, under scopes and stuff like that. They just saw it as a job. When I brought a doctor in to say, hey, this is how important this is. I mean, we saw an uptick in quality like you would not believe. So just bringing that element of this is something, because I mean, some of the people said, hey, my dad might be, having one of those
Yeah.
catheters going through my son, it just brought that personal
It's a
element.
massive change.
It is. And to me, that was so almost evolutionary of just seeing people like, oh my, I mean, I think about it now, people had tears.
Yeah. Oh my God. Talk about meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
That's such good meaning and purpose.
Yeah. So to me, that was really fun. And then, from St. Jude Medical on Cargill. So quite a wide variety of different industries, different experiences.
Yeah,
And
I was noticing that's 6 companies,
yeah,
7 maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. Is there something to that? Is it the nature of your work where it's you get them over the hump? They're in a good place, humming and rolling along, and then move on to kind of the next challenge.
Yeah, I think that was part of it, and then it was part of my personal growth as well to take a look at different industries that just really didn't know anything about it. So when someone would tell me that, oh, that industry, you can't do it in that industry, I almost took that as a challenge and said, especially when they said it didn't work. And it's like, I know it works. I've done it before. And it's not to be arrogant or anything like that. It's just, I know it works. And I know it can help people. And I know it can help make people's lives easier. So why not do it? So for me, because back at Honeywell, I had a really good mentor. He was the VP of operations, and I was just a lowly quality engineer. And he was a mentor, and I'd go into his office, and we'd banter back and forth about, because I wanted to climb the ladder. It's like, you're just out of college. And he looked at me one time, and he said, Joe, don't tell me what you want to do. He said, don't tell me what you don't want to do. And he said, everything else is fair game. And I really took that to heart throughout my whole entire career, because he would throw challenges at me. I'd take a look and say, I have no clue on how to do that, but I'll figure it out.
It smells like growth.
Yeah.
It smells like an opportunity.
Yeah. So I really took that to heart. So when there's different opportunities that pose themselves, and I'll admit I got kind of labeled as, oh, you're a job hopper. Can't you keep a job? And to me, it was just this insane curiosity to explore different avenues, because I never wanted to say that, well, you know what? I don't know that would work because I've never tried it. And I can't say that I've worked in every single industry, but I think I have enough experience now that I can honestly say that
you got pretty well surrounded.
Yeah. Adopt and adapt.
Yeah,
there will be some elements that we can always do, and the beauty of it is now I can start looking at multiple tiers of the organization, because a lot of times Six Sigma is seen as that mid tier, and it's like, no, this can really be used at all tiers of the organization.
We agree.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You gave a few stories. That doctor one really got me. As you think back on your illustrious career of change implementation, what are some special stories that come to mind? Either ones that stuck with you for some emotional reasons, like that, or I love the operator on the floor improving their posture, and that could really change somebody's life.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe even some business outcomes, or quality outcomes, or notable product changes. I'm curious, what are some of your favorite? This is how it was. We did X, Y, and Z, and now this is how it is. Stories.
Yeah, probably one of the biggest ones was when I was working at GE at a master black belt project, where we worked with like 3 big computer companies, and we'd get rebates, and we would fill out all of the information, and the 3 different computer companies had 3 different forms. And I'm kind of like, well, what's going on with that? So at first I thought, well, I'm just going to really synthesize this, come up with one form that'll be amenable to the 3 computer companies. But then when I started looking into the actual rebates, I started to take a look at the amount that we sent in versus the amount that we received, and there's like multi-million dollar, like tens of millions of dollar discrepancies. And come to find out, when I actually started to take a look at, some of the, some of like the reconciliation, it's like, this makes no sense whatsoever.
Wow.
And come to find out, if it wasn't filled out correctly, they just throw it away. Say, no, this is wrong. It was kind of like, you're in grade school, the teacher didn't like your paper, so they just threw it away. And we didn't have an accounting system that said, okay, we should be getting, $5 million back for this. Did we actually get $5 million? It was just totally like, oh, here you go. And we were just going to trust that. And so I actually and it ended up being close to $50-60 million, in about 3 months.
In money that your company could make if you hold these
In rebates that we would actually get back. So it was hard, fast dollars.
It's an amazing story.
Yeah. So
you never know what you're going to find when you start going on that.
Yeah.
Road.
I mean, I started just, like I said, taking a look. I actually went to my boss at the time and I said, I think I found something. I would like to quit my job, and I'd just like a percentage of what I want to get back. He said, Joe, if you found that much, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And you're like, I'm not going to tell you what it is until you sign here.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
No longer your employee, I'm now your consultant.
Exactly.
That's good.
But obviously that didn't work out. I mean, and then just some of the, maybe some of the fun stories that I talked about, really working with operators. I think some of the fun ones that I did, even like with technology, was kind of really flipping the lens on, technology and saying, okay, we're buying a technology. Why are we buying this technology? Because I think a lot of people go into it saying that, oh, this is going to do everything for you, and it's like, sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. And so we had a number of different machines, for packaging and things like that. And I had developed, like the V-squared mapping, kind of like the SIPOC mapping and things like that. And so I did this on the packaging machine, and I said, what is it that we're really paying for here? We wanted a quick changeover. We wanted to make sure that, this thing wasn't going to jam up. So we just started listing all of the different CTQs. And then we went back to the manufacturer and said, okay, if we would give you some black belts to help redesign this to these CTQs, would that be an advantage? And they said, oh yeah, absolutely. Having that kind of that systems engineer, mentality. So we actually did that. And then we actually went back and said, okay, now we want a discount on this new machine. And they're like, well, wait a minute. We didn't agree to that. Why would we agree to that? And we're like, well, if we were your only customer, yeah, that would be really stupid, but we're not your only customer. So our competitors charge 2 times, charge 3 times the amount. But, what we actually ended up doing is, it kind of really transformed how we bought technology. We pay a third at contract signing, a third at, when the machine was delivered, and a third when it would meet, 1.33 or 1.67 EPK, CPK on the CTQs. And I'll tell you, that just transformed that whole technology from the standpoint of, wow, because people a lot of times don't know what they're buying in it, but you have to be really critical about, and what it did is it really helped that packaging, machine manufacturer to really like, this is a really cool methodology.
Yeah,
because
now
now
goes to the Valley brand.
Absolutely.
And they're going to deploy resources, CSMs, whatever it may be, to make sure that you're successful so that they can get paid.
Absolutely.
It's transformational.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, even before, maybe it was industry standard. It wasn't industry standard there, but just talking to the Yeah, because they talk to the engineers.
Mhm.
It's like, you know what? If it's and this was a key learning for me, talking and working with operators. A lot of times we design our quality system such that when it pops above a different, like a severity level, then we get involved. Talk to the operator, and they're like, it's not the severity level, it's the frequency of occurrence. Because if it never pops above the severity level, the
Goes
ones that
untreated.
eat our lunch are the ones that happen time and time and time again. Kind of call it death by paper cut.
Yep.
And that just totally reframed a lot of different stuff for me when I really started to take a look at that.
Interesting. It's not just the anomaly events.
Yes.
Just look for the death by paper cuts.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a really good lesson learned.
Yeah, that
Speaking-
one was huge for me.
Yeah. Where was that at?
That was at GE.
At GE?
Yeah.
I'm curious. That's
Yeah.
a great lesson learned. Any other lessons learned? The successes and the wins, the $50 million is great. Third is great. You've given our audience a lot of nuggets here, Joe. I'm curious if any other lessons learned come to mind, maybe some battle scars, maybe some, learning through experience that could maybe help the next crop of continuous improvement leaders.
For me, when I think about continuous improvement, like I said, I really did focus in a lot on the process and the tools and things like that.
Mhm.
But continuous improvement is about people.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, you're either positively or negatively impacting people's lives with what you do. And I teach our the up and coming yellow belt, green belt, black belts that think about process not as boxes but as gears, so that you can start to think, because they said you can go in and you may improve that gear, and that gear is going to work really, really well. But
What's it touching?
think about what you've done to this whole entire system. So it to me, that was probably one of the bigger lessons learned, that if I could pass on to your audience, is really take a look at everything more from a systems perspective, because the system is it's machines, it's data, it's people. How are you either positively or negatively impacting, and just making sure that you're truly understanding all of the key stakeholders when you're improving, just so that you just don't suboptimize. Because you can tout that, hey, we did this, and it's like, but are you looking on that side of this or in that side?
So also, if the BPMN standard people are listening, we should change boxes to gears. It makes a ton of sense. The microphone, like I'm talking to BPMN, the APQC.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, it kind of strikes me as the difference between working at somebody versus working with somebody.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to be worked at.
Yeah.
But you want to be worked with.
Yep.
That's a great lesson.
And I think one last lesson learned is, I call it the 10% solution, is, I know that we all work more than 40 hours, but how can we work towards 4 hours a week where we're working on our processes versus in them? And what I mean by that is, how do we really focus in on improving those, taking 4 hours to improve our processes so that the other 36 are much more efficient and effective. Step back and take a look at that.
Look at your process.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yep.
Some rapid fire questions. I'd like to step into a bit of a technology corner.
Sure.
Digital world, if we could. A
Yeah.
lot of your experience is manufacturing shop floor.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of Six Sigma activity happens.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also continuous improvement that you mentioned that happens in the back office.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Working with department heads across all departments.
Yep.
Who's your favorite department to work with beyond manufacturing floors? Is it finance because of all the data and reports that are flying around? A lot of manual work happening in there. Is it HR because they have been maybe underserved in the digital transformation space for quite a while? Is it marketing because they can be the front door of your business?
Yeah.
And as you have customers, nailing that moment where you have a customer on your front door
Yeah.
responding in time while they're still attracted, you still have their attention, is important. And continuous improvement, and dare I even say automation, can help with that stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's 2023, almost 2024. How is software intersecting with your work?
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on this?
I think some of the largest opportunities, for Cargill, and I would say for any large corporation, is just the massive amount of information that we have, and how do we centralize? Because for me, that information is my lifeblood. From a continuous improvement and really being able to focus. You asked me about the different departments. Next week, I'm actually doing a Kaizen with our HR department and taking a look at our onboarding and how can we, onboard, how can we be more of an employer of choice from, the interview all the way through. I think it's 9 months. So we're going to be mapping out the process, taking a look at the North America process, and we have multiple. And people will sometimes accuse me of saying, "Oh, you just want standard process. You just want everybody to do it the same way." And I said, "No." I said,
it's not that black and white.
"No." I said, "I'm really much more of an advocate of standard measure, and then let the standard measure dictate where we need standard process. Because if there's not variation coming in, I'm fine.
Yeah,
let's go ahead
and
keep on. But if we see wide swings of where one plant can hire and that person will just go right through that system, and then the other one has fits and starts with getting anybody to even come to the plant. Those are the opportunities for the data. A couple months ago, I did a Kaizen, 1 week Kaizen in Amsterdam for our SAP ERP rollout, and just taking a look and saying, how can we be much more efficient? How can we gather information? How do we even identify some of our key stakeholders and use some of the tools? Because performance dialogue, and that's either the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual performance to say, hey, these are the things that I care about. How can we have a meaningful conversation, using data, not conjecture, not, he did like, you did that. Now let's let the data talk for us, and then say, okay, what's working, what's not working. So huge opportunity that I see in all of our transactional areas. IT, HR, did a finance one, and trying to close the reconciliation of the monthly closing statements. Oh my God, Cargill has so many business units are around the globe, and different accounting systems. We've got legacy, we got our SAP. So bringing all of those things in, finance and even IT. I didn't coin this phrase; I stole it from someone shamelessly. But bringing it to everybody is, you deserve what you tolerate. So why is it that we can't get this? I mean, if I'm a supplier to you, and it's data, it's a widget, it's it's this pen. If you're not satisfied with that, if you're saying, Joe, you gave me a blue ink pen, I need a black ink pen. And I don't want it silver, I want it gold. But if I hand that to you in January, and in October you're telling me that it's the wrong one, it's like, I got 10 months worth of you being unsatisfied. So just closing the ranks and having some of these functional silos actually talk not only within each other but between each other that's huge. That's really starting to crack even a bigger egg than just the operations and manufacturing.
Yeah. So you are getting around departments.
Oh yeah,
with finance,
absolutely.
HR next week. How has technology, be it like process mapping platforms, process mining platforms, transformed how a continuous improvement team would approach a department compared to maybe how a continuous improvement team would have approached a department in, let's say, 10 years ago?
I think just the visualization is so important. Because people kind of have almost a vision of what they think the process is.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden we start mapping it out. That's exactly what we're going to do next week is we're going to be mapping processes out. And what I've seen is people know like this slice of their process, but when it comes to the end to end, they're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's like, it's a wall. It's a snake.
Yeah.
It's a rabbit.
Exactly.
It's actually an elephant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on, am I touching the ear, the trunk, the leg?
Yeah.
You know, and so it's just, I mean, it's almost like light bulbs going on. So, you know, when you can have the tool to visualize that and then start putting in process metrics and then swim lanes to show some of the crossovers and some of the waste. I mean, back in the day, we used to call them, it might not be socially acceptable anymore, but we call them war rooms where we would just have process maps just lined up. New people would come in and we'd just walk through the process with them to document. Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, and they're saying, well, why do we do this? It's like, geez, I don't know. I've been looking at that for 3 years and never picked that up. You know, so, but it you know, just having that as a visual display is so important. Yeah. You know, and I think because it's such a simple tool, people kind of like, is there really any value in that? And even what I've seen, you know, even over the last 3-4 months in doing a lot of process mapping, you know, in transactional areas, is people will start blending what they actually do with what they want to do. And it's like, no, we have to map what we're actually doing today. That's why in a Kaizen, it's so absolutely critical to have the people that are actually doing work on a day-to-day basis
involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, when you start to take a look at the change management, it's like if I'm over here, you know, as the black belt, master black belt, or even the green belt, I'm going to come up with a solution, then I hand it to you. It's like, how acceptable is that going to be?
If it didn't come from the operator.
If you didn't have any input in this, it's like, hey, I have a great
working at me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So to me, that whole collaboration starts right in that Kaizen from day one when you start to take a look and you start to understand the whole entire end to end. You understand, you know what? I never understood what your key requirements were. And shame on me because I didn't ask you.
Right. Yeah, never asked.
Yep.
Curious, where's the line between you've mapped out the process you're going to map out next week, you maybe even during that Kaizen, you come up with ideas to improve.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times that happens if you get the right people in the room.
Yep.
It's like, well, wait, why do we do it that way? What if we did this? Now you've got maybe an idea garden or a backlog of list of ideas and opportunities. Yep. Some of them may be low tech, right? Mm-hmm. Like we like all types of automations and improvements. It's not always let's build a bot or let's build an integration or let's build an AI model. It's not always that. Sometimes you can change where the fields on a form sit.
Absolutely.
Or like make a field mandatory online. How long does that take to do? No time. You toggle mandatory or not on a form, and you've just eliminated weeks of downstream retracing your steps.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially on high volume customer issues. It's not always high tech, but we also love the technology ones too.
Oh, absolutely.
We love bots and we love integrations and we love BPM type of solutions.
Yep.
Where does the line kind of fall between your team continuous improvement and then designing, developing, and implementing the higher technology solutions?
So for me, what I take a look at is let's get a low tech version of this, and let's find out what the CTQs are, and then if it's speed, if it's accuracy, if it's human error, then we take a look and say, well, how does technology fill that gap? Mm-hmm. So it's really identifying what's the actual need. Because I may take a look at it and I'll have my set of CTQs, but then you take a look at it, you have your set of CTQs. Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at that whole end to end, and then start to take a look and say, now where's technology best deployed?
Yeah, I'm kind of getting at like a diverse team.
Yes.
Like
absolutely.
You need the continuous improvement black belt.
Yep.
but you also might need a data scientist.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Because they're going to
software
come up with those ideas that say,
Yeah.
well, you're talking about that form, but
We could build a WYSIWYG, and they would,
yeah, exactly. So you almost need that kind of that Vulcan mind meld.
and maybe a designer, like
Yeah.
a UX designer,
Absolutely.
from a different angle,
Absolutely.
change management.
Yeah, because I'll come up with a low tech solution and say, boy, if I could do this, then, and someone's like, we've been doing that for years. That's
Mhm.
like, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet you have to learn.
Yeah.
You're a lifelong learner.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're already talking the CTQs of RPA.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've been around this for a while. And yeah, it's maybe not natural for you, but it has become because there's this openness to learning and this team involvement. So you do have a multidisciplinary team that you'll go into these events with, or is it like a readout after the fact?
So we'll probably take a look because we're having multiple locations. We'll get together and say, okay, each one has their nuance, and some will call it secret sauce.
Sure.
I
call it
take-
variation.
Yeah, I call it variation. And then optionality is probably one of the worst variations. Because people will say, yes, I'm doing that, and no, they're not.
Sure.
so you think you have a standard process, and you don't. So we'll get together and come up with like all of the different pain points, and then start to understand. Okay, now are there some quick hits, and then probably put together almost like a multi-generational fix to this. Okay, to your point, what are some of the quick ones? Yeah.
Like a multi-phased,
Yeah.
like a 20, 40, 60 year approach.
Potentially.
Wow.
Potentially.
That's a great
Absolutely.
one.
Absolutely. Because again, one of the things that I want to take a look at is, can we get to the point of mistake proofing the process? Yeah. Can you
Always
step back? Absolutely. Because I'll do some low tech stuff, just to test drive it, because I like test driving the solutions and say,
That's the MVP. That's the agile iterative approach.
Absolutely. Because I can sit there and try to get perfection over months and months and months, or I can throw it out there and say, what's the minimum viable solution that I can put out there, and then have the operator give me feedback and say, Joe, you really missed the boat on this one, but this we really like. Okay, why don't you like this, and why do you like this? And it's, man, you can learn so much so fast. It's really, like I said, I don't have to have the ideas, and that to me is the whole idea. From a Cargill standpoint, is I want 160,000 problem solvers. I don't want to have just a couple belts, because if I don't have 160,000 eyes and ears and noses looking at things, it's like, then we're only going to identify the opportunities of what those trained people, and it's like, well, I want everybody to take a look at it that way.
I think that's a great place to end it.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Bots and Thoughts, the hyperautomation podcast sponsored by Salient Process. Be sure to never miss an episode by hitting that subscribe button wherever you're listening to this. Don't forget to connect and interact with us. You can find us on Bots and Thoughts' own LinkedIn page. And we're constantly running feedback surveys and ask that if you've made it this far in the episode, show us some love by responding to a survey and following us on LinkedIn. Finally, if you or someone you know would like to be a special guest on the show, we have a nomination form also down in the description for you to fill out. And with that, see you next episode, and happy automating.